I used to be terrified of flying. I flew to Chicago in 2003 to visit family, and I didn't set foot on a plane again for 10 years. Like, I would take buses or trains or just drive, even if it meant having to go from New York City to Boise or Western Massachusetts to Dallas. I was not getting on a plane. Then in 2013, my family wanted to do a big get together on the Oregon coast. Plus, my theater company, the New York Neo Futurists, were doing a short tour in Texas, and I realized I cannot keep taking off work just for travel days. Like, Brooklyn to Oregon is days long, even on a train, and it's 24 hours just to like drive time just to get to South Texas from here. So I committed to fighting through my fears and getting on planes once again. I'd already done tons of research over the years as to why planes are safe, how they work, what all the noises are that you hear along the way, how turbulence is really never going to knock a plane out of the sky, and none of that really helped calm me. What I realized is that flying is inherently uncomfortable. The packing, the lugging, the lines, the security, the bad airport food, the more expensive, worse airplane food, the tiny seats, the noise, the boredom, the waiting for people to get their shit out of the overhead and move, the baggage carousels, and so on. I hypothesized that what was happening to me was an irrational phobia taking the place of just good old-fashioned discomfort. And so I just chose to embrace the pain. Just acknowledge that these things I didn't like, just acknowledge that these are things I didn't like and sit with them. Like, literally sit in a tiny chair with dry air, bored out of my mind. I didn't raw dog these flights, but I took in everything that was difficult. And you know what? It really helped. Actually, what really helped was in late 2013, Night Vale planned its first set of tours, and flights were going to be the norm for my life. So immersion therapy helped me with it a lot. And now I kind of enjoy flying. I have status on Delta because of years of touring, and so occasionally, like I did yesterday, flying home from my family's house, got the first class upgrade. I have TSA pre and global reentry to help with the stress, and I've been on enough flights to understand all the sounds and feels of a flight. Still, there are times when we hit rough air, or one time a pilot, I think you were on this flight, Cecil, I think it was for tour, when the pilot just missed the runway and had to loop it back around. I think we were flying to like Albuquerque. Anyways, some of those moments I will regress, get my sweaty palms and teary eyes. It happens, and I have to work back through my checklist. It's been kind of the same for me for horror films. After almost 5 years of weekly horror movies, I've gotten really good at not letting horror get to me. I'm not squeamish anymore. Way back in our first few weeks of doing this show, we watched Peter Jackson's Dead Alive, and that movie was so disgusting that I nearly threw up. It literally activated my gag reflex. But since then, I've really sat with the discomfort, the pain, the gross outs, the creepy scares, and unsettling visuals, and I love horror like I love air travel. Though, just like with air travel, there are going to be moments of regression. It's been 251 episodes since Dead Alive made my throat lurch in disgust, and since then it's been pretty smooth sailing, but man, the 2015 Turkish film Baskin, it got me. This movie really disturbed me, and I once again gagged in a moment while watching it. Hi, Cecil.
Hi, Jeffrey.
What's your drink cart order on a plane? Drink
Oh,
cart's coming through.
sure.
What do you want?
If I'm doing an A, then I'm getting a ginger ale, and if I'm doing an alcoholic beverage, a Bloody Mary,
Oh,
spicy
the
Bloody Mary, if they have an option.
we've had this conversation before, I believe. Do you ever have those drinks when you're not on a plane?
I do
Okay.
both.
You both.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. No, because the ginger ale settles your tummy, and that was
Yeah.
also from like years and years of being a waiter. Like if you're like that was like, oh, you're not feeling great, have some ginger ale with some bitters. That will cure pretty much anything.
Yeah.
And then I love a Bloody Mary. I mean, I normally relegate it to brunch times.
Yes.
But I love waking up. Actually, brunch. And then years and years and years ago, when I was living in Washington, D.C., doing theater, all the restaurants would be closed by the time we'd get out of doing plays. So I would get like Bloody Marys with extra toppings, and I'd call it a salad for dinner.
Because you got like full on like celery stalks
Yeah, celery
coming out of
stalks.
it.
Give me extra pickles, extra olives, extra celery, and then maybe there was a bar that had like sweet potato fries, and I was like, look, this is the fucking healthiest I've ever eaten in my life.
Yeah. It's perfect. It's a full on snack. And it's tomato soup,
Yeah,
really,
that's it.
honestly.
Yeah, spicy tomato soup.
I'm definitely a ginger ale guy on
Love it.
planes,
Yeah.
and I will drink ginger ale also, but I nowhere near the rate at which I drink it on planes. If I'm ordering alcoholic, I almost always just get the red wine.
Oh,
I just like I'll
see
have a
to
red
me,
wine.
like red wine. I like wine, but it's like it seems like the opposite of how I want to feel on an airplane.
Yeah.
Like that kind of fuzzy head, tannins in the mouth. Like I feel like my body is being affected by, like in your intro said, so many other different conditions that are out of my control. The one thing I can control is not feeling like my tongue is coated in fur.
Yes. Yeah, I fully get that. There's something cozy about red wine to me. Like
Okay,
it's not a
sure.
brunchy drink. Like if I have a day flight, I'm not like red wine, please. But
Okay.
like evening flights, especially like flying back out to New York, if I'm coming in the evening and I can just take a train home. Yeah, I'll just get a red wine on the flight because it's like cozy and it feels, I don't know, it's just kind of like calming and I kind of get a little sleepy eyed while watching whatever shitty movie.
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think that's part of why they make alcoholic beverages
Yeah.
free on flights. They're like, please go to sleep. Please, please just sleep. Don't fight with each other. Don't fight with
Sleep now.
us. Just sleep.
They should give those red wines to children.
They should,
Hmm.
with like little Xanax crushed up inside.
Wow, this movie, I did not know what to expect to this movie.
Nor did I. I almost watched the wrong movie. So
Oh,
then
really? What did you almost watch?
I, for some reason, I had Elementary stuck in my head
Oh, yeah, because
because I
that
think it
came
was
up.
yeah, because it was one of the movies we had talked about and it had been on the thing. And then I was like, let me just do a double. Oh, no, we are not watching that movie
Uh-huh.
at all. Um, so I'm glad I watched the right movie.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, I did not know what to expect either. I knew that this was, like a lot of people had kind of given this. I knew it's based on a short film by the same
Uh-huh.
title, same film director. They extended into a full length, which happens pretty frequently, or
Yeah.
like quite often in the horror movie genre. And
Mama
I'm
and
like,
Lights Out.
yeah, like if it's a short that does really well, and then the filmmakers find money to make it into full length, I'm like, honestly, I'm going to go in saying competence. And here's the thing about Baskin. It's a good movie. Like it's a competently made movie,
Uh-huh.
but like what it is serving is not for all markets.
It is not for
You
all
know,
markets.
like the cinematography is really cool and edgy and very reminded me of like Seven or The Descent. The aesthetic is like Hellraiser without the sexiness.
Uh-huh.
Like if Hellraiser and Saw had a baby, it would be this movie. So it's much more visceral and a lot less erotic than the Hellraiser films.
Yeah.
It's pretty gloopy gloppy.
It's real. I did not know how gloopy gloppy it was going to get because, well, let's start at the beginning because this
Sure.
opening scare
Oh my God.
is really good, but it's restrained. It's
It's
very
so
restrained.
different than the rest of the film, too.
And I will say the first half of this movie reminded me of the Radio Silence movie we watched, Southbound, which was kind of that
Oh, sure.
anthology thing where
Yep.
people were caught in
Yep.
that
Yep.
weird
Yep.
loop in West Texas or wherever they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in some ways, it is a lot like that movie in the sense that you're trapped in hell,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Everything loops back on itself, and hell is related to
Sort of a karmic cycle kind
how
of
you
thing.
lived your life, yeah,
Yeah.
or what you carry with you, as this movie says. But it opens with a young boy who wakes up to what sounds like mom having sex in the other room.
I know.
And he gets up, goes to listen at the door, but then the noises stop when he gets there. In the living room. Oh, love this. I haven't seen this horror trope in quite a while. Love this horror trope. TV on in the other room and it's just static.
I know. There's nothing
That's scary.
scarier. I
Mm.
mean, like, I think, Poltergeist really, like, put a nail in that. But really, that was and I think it's something that probably doesn't exist anymore in the age of digital television.
Right.
But like when we were kids, like if you saw the static on TV, you were up past your bedtime.
Uh-huh.
Like something is not right. Your sleep cycle is messed up.
Right. And he goes to turn the TV off, and then suddenly his room is glowing. The hallway around his room is glowing. And there is a hand, just a bloody, dirty
Yeah,
hand reaching out.
in like some sort of like robe.
Uh-huh. And it, I sort of cracked myself up when I just saw the way the hand is reaching out. I'm like, I think he just needs toilet paper.
Like I haven't a square to spare.
But he gets, and then it's just this boy banging on his mom's door, being like, "Mommy, mommy!"
Yeah.
Title card.
Ah, I know.
This movie, actually, we get a title card on the closing scene with just death metal music playing.
Oh,
This
oh my
movie
God.
is
Yes.
metal as fuck.
I was actually thinking that. I was like, this movie is kind of metal as fuck.
It really
And that's the
is.
thing. And you know what? That's the thing about um I think, kind of this movie is the equivalent to death metal in the music. Like, listen, you can put a lot of things on the radio kind of for the common market. But then you have the kind of the outer reaches of where you can go in music, and the people that love it fucking love it
Yeah.
because it captures a mood, it captures an emotion really well. But I don't want to like get into my car and turn on the car and like have death metal going all the time.
No, no, I do not. I don't need Mastodon
Drive time radio.
for my trip to Target.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, then after the title card, we have kind of this rural restaurant, little cafe, kind of
Cursed.
seeming cursed.
Cursed. I was like, this restaurant is cursed. Because one, okay, we've got the like bulb flickering lights.
Hmm.
Like everything is kind of half lit. We have this cool, like, I really like the camera work in this film a
I
lot,
do too.
actually.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of like cool camera edits and things like that. But this camera's sort of floating through, so we're sort of piecing together where the fuck we are. We
Uh-huh.
see a police van. It's got a photo of like our five dudes, our five cops, being all chummy. It's got the little like ward off the evil eye thing. And so we're like, okay, cool. And then the camera just happens to pick up on a person in a robe with a bucket full of raw meat. And then that person just sort of disappears. And I'm like, okay, all right. So I guess we're going into the restaurant then.
I guess we're all vegetarian now that we
Uh-huh.
know how meat arrives at
Yeah.
restaurants.
Yeah. Excuse me, your meat buckets here. And then the camera's still kind of like doing this floaty, cool floaty thing. And we have these like dudes that are sitting there, and we've got four guys that are all talking about sports ball, talking
Yep.
about who to bet on at the
Uh-huh.
the football match.
Uh-huh.
And one guy is like, like fucking having a full-on migraine. But what's interesting is that there's somebody cooking meat in the other room, gross, and there's kind of a waiter, but you never see either of their faces. And that to me is like real subtle, but like starts to build the dread,
Yeah.
Because not knowing where the fuck this movie is going to go, I was like, who are these people? Why are they not showing me their faces? What's going on? Is this a mystery? What, like, are they evil? Are they, and then the guy, I think it's the guy in the kitchen, goes to, there's a knock on the back door. And no, it's the waiter, like, who we
Yeah.
still haven't seen his face, goes and just takes that bucket of meat right into the kitchen.
To the woman cooking, and she starts close-ups of her cutting that meat.
Oh my God. Talk about the sound. It was like,
Ugh.
like full on. I was like, ugh.
And you're looking at this meat, and this meat
Looks normal.
it looks like normal meat. It looks just
It's
like
maybe
chuck
not.
roast,
Yeah, it's not like the best grade Wagyu steak, but it's not gross.
Yeah, it's gonna be like, it looks like stew beef. She cuts it into
Yeah,
steaks, but like,
absolutely.
yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought up the point that we couldn't really see their faces, because the waiter, the young man,
Yeah.
we don't see his faces. All of this is happening, and the moment we do see his face is when the conversation shifts. So these boys, all these five guys, they're all cops,
Yep.
and they're just sitting around talking football. Then they start, busting each other's balls about sex things, like,
Yep.
oh, you fucked
Oh.
a chicken, oh, you, and this guy tells
I
a
was like, you fucked a really? This is
what?
no,
And
the first
it's
time I had sex with an elephant. Come on. I was like, oh God.
God, and it's definitely the
Gentlemen.
way that like straight men talk to each other, like really
Yeah.
overly toxic masculine straight men, and it's a
Yeah.
lot of we get a pretty transphobic, homophobic sort of story, and then this young waiter shows up and he kind of laughs at the end of this guy's story. That's his.
But like not even. I like
He like
sort of.
smiles the way
Yeah,
in
that's
which
it.
when you're with a group of people and sometimes everyone laughs at a joke, even if you didn't hear the joke, you find yourself smiling or a
Sure.
slight laugh. It's a contagious moment.
Yeah.
Well, this is when Yavuz, who's the man
Yavuz,
who was
asshole cop.
asshole cop, turns and kind of does the Joe Pesci, what am I, a
I was
clown to
gonna say, I
you?
was like, oh, we got a Joe Pesci here, do we?
Yeah, and he was like, what, did you call me an F slur? He's like, no, I just was laughing at your story. And this is the moment we finally see this young man's face, because now we're going to get into a place where they're going to have a face off,
Yeah.
essentially, to be like, fight. And
Yeah.
he's allowed by his chief to beat the shit out of this kid.
Yeah. Like the cook is coming in from the back. He's like, oh, he's just a boy, and he is like kind of like late teenager, early 20, like youth. But this cop is just busting his balls.
Yeah.
And to the point where they're like, just get out of here, like leave, leave, leave. And the boy, and this is what I love. The boy's like, man, if you weren't cops. And I was like, oh, a cab.
Uh-huh.
But that, of course, draws them back in. And our boss, was it Boss Ramsey?
Yep.
Who everybody just kind of calls boss. He's like, all right, you want to fight this kid? Here, I'm going to take your gun. Show me what you got.
Yeah.
So already the tone of the film is like, oh, we have some unlikable protagonists here.
Uh-huh. I wanted to one quick thing to tack on to it was I was trying to think it up and I just had to look up the quote. The whole showing of the boy's face once they get into the fight was kind of a reverse of a Catcher in the Rye quote, which is Holden saying, I don't mind getting hit so much, although I'm not crazy about it naturally. What scares me the most in a fist fight is the guy's face. I can't stand looking at the other guy's face is my trouble. And it's that inability to face up to what you're dealing with. Like
To actually look at a person.
What
Like
do you-
violence is easy, but violence against another human being all of a sudden becomes a little trickier.
and what do you choose in this world to acknowledge as a problem? And so we see the way Yavuz is not actually seeing the world as it is, just in his story of mistaking a trans woman for a cis woman,
Yeah.
and then, but kind of like,
But then
and
also not even really caring.
and not really even caring, and also once he's in hell later is kind of like being like, we're the law, you can't do that.
Yeah, I know, right?
Not acknowledging, but when he has the chance to sort of abuse somebody, he does.
Yeah.
And so that's when he faces up to his problems. Well, Safi, I think I'm saying that right. Safia is the sick cop, the one who is
Right. Yeah.
feeling ill, and he just can't handle it anymore. Runs to the bathroom, vomits immediately in the sink,
Yeah.
and as he's washing his hands, he reaches over to the soap dish, and there is not soap, but a frog.
That is the first flavor of Baskin Robbins Hell. 31 flavors.
I only did a cursory look before we started the show. What does Baskin mean?
Baskin means raid. So like the cops going on a raid,
Okay.
or alternatively descent, I think. But it's pretty,
Like
it's
DE
to descend.
Yeah, to go down.
descend.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure the main, because I had to look this up. The main translation is raid, to raid. Like a cop would raid the building, which is
Of
kind
course.
of what they do.
And kind of descent as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so or it's short for Baskin Robbins.
Or it's short for Baskin Robbins. And our first flavor of the first Baskin Robbins we're going to open in Turkey is frog.
Frog soap. I'm gonna call it frog
Frog
soap.
soap. Yep, little like a little Lush body bath bomb
Mm-hmm.
of soap
Frog
frog.
soap frog
Double
is
scoop
that's our 30-second flavor to
on a
go into.
waffle cone, please.
And then he washes his hands, he washes his face, he looks at himself in the mirror, he stares at himself so long that he just begins screaming.
I love it.
I loved that.
Because we're like, what the fuck? Like I like being dropped into a movie where I don't know anything. And I feel like these days, even if you see if you see a preview of something like the like I remember I was like sitting around with my boyfriend and we were like trying to decide what to watch that night. And we were
Uh-huh.
like watching trailers of like we're like, I don't know, maybe this. Let's watch the trailer. And we got like 30 seconds in, I was like, this trailer is just essentially telling us the entire movie. So we either need to stop the trailer and watch the film
Right.
or not watch it at all.
Uh-huh.
And honestly, we watched the movie and the trailer was pretty much beat by beat the entire film. So like I like being dropped into films where I don't know anything. I have no preconceived notions. Because I'm like, what's this dude's deal? Is he crazy? Is he the devil? Is he possessed? Is he
Yeah.
cursed? What? What? What?
Some of the complaints, critical complaints, and understandably so, about this movie are that it has a lot of things where it's going for a scare or a gross out without it
Yeah.
having any real substance or symbology. And there's something here wherein, like, this moment of him screaming into his own reflection is not
Yeah.
without grounding in what's really going on, but it doesn't really, there's no, like, epidemic throughout this movie of people who then stare at their own
Right.
reflections and
Yeah.
scream.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no other sense of this type of madness
Yep.
happening. But I'm fine with it. Like, as a person who came up on David Lynch as the
I
access
know.
point
I
to
was.
horror, I'm like,
Yep.
it doesn't need to connect. I love
It,
that he did this, and it's really cool. It's a really unsettling moment.
and it's also not like a sort of quid pro quo kind of film here.
Yeah.
Which is like because this guy, he honestly, he's one of the nicer cops. Like
Yeah.
he's one of the more normal down to earth. So like it's not a like, oh, we know the bad cop is going to get what he deserves later on. But this guy, like, he didn't do anything wrong.
No.
But it's not a logical thread of like, oh, you've been cursed.
Right. Yeah.
He
It doesn't
just,
feel like he's been marked or that
no,
something has entered him or anything
he
like that,
just
or that he's even gone mad.
he just saw frog flavored soap
Uh-huh.
and went a bit crazy in the bathroom.
I'm going to give another quote here that I really love because this was kind of the glory days of Twitter with the poet Patricia Lockwood. Tweeted one time, "Has anyone ever looked into a TJ Maxx mirror so long and so deeply that they died?" And TJ Maxx's official account replied, "No."
Of course, that's what they would officially
Of,
say.
of course they would say that. Well, so this, and he tells, Safia tells them when he gets out of there, he's like, "Listen, I just, I just felt like losing my mind
Yeah.
for a moment.
Yeah.
Not I lost my mind. I felt like I wanted to lose my mind for a moment, and I did, and now I'm fine."
And I'm fine. And all the guys are like, well, I don't know. This sounds like maybe he's claustrophobic.
Yeah.
And it also turns out he's the driver. And he's like, no, I'm good. I'm just going to shrug it off. Ready to hop back in that driver's seat.
Cecil, if y'all had to bust down like a Bucky's stall door after
Okay.
I just was screaming at the top of my lungs
Yes.
and collapsed to the
Uh-huh.
floor, and then we took a few minutes for me to take breaths, and I said, "All right, everyone hop in. I'm driving us on to Phoenix now."
I would slap you fully in the face. Like open-handed slap in the face.
You're like, "Dylan doesn't even have a driver license. He's
But
driving."
put him in. Put
Yes.
him in, coach.
I think he does now, but still. Uh, yeah, they hop back in the van and they start driving. Also, as they're driving away, we get one more shot inside that restaurant, and that meat is just burning on
Burnt.
the grill. Still on the grill.
Burnt. Now, this is also, I want you to remember this. So I did a little bit of digging into this movie, and the meat is part of a larger symbology of Zoroastrianism.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. That's kind of a more like a larger sort of, because I was like, there's got to be something going on with this movie. Like, it's not just, you know, Jigsaw fucked Pinhead kind of movie. And
Yeah.
then I did some research and then I found a couple of like threads and videos and things like that that sort of broke this movie down from like, because I was like, maybe this is something, maybe it's a cultural misconnect. I'm not Turkish. I don't understand a lot of the intricacies, which I find often with films that are not, you know, purely Hollywood. I'm like, I know there's something going on here, but I don't
Yeah.
understand what the symbolism of this image. I know that the filmmakers are doing something. I just don't know what it is. And it just takes a little bit more research.
Yeah.
And there's actually a lot of Zoroastrian mythology going on in this film. And this sort of like the food in the beginning is part of it.
Interesting. I sort of clocked, I think the easiest kind of big picture symbol to clock is the frogs. It's like the
That I
biblical.
have no explanation for, Jeffrey. If you can help me out there.
I just took it as like the biblical plague of
It's Rain
frogs
of Frog.
from
Yeah,
yeah
Plague of Frogs.
from
Okay, that I buy that.
Exodus or whatever
Yeah.
book of the Bible that
Listen,
was.
like apparently these filmmakers are terrified of frogs and eggs.
Yes,
They do not like those things.
and tarantulas coming out of your
And
mouth.
oh,
Oh,
it was so cute.
mm-mm.
In your mouth?
Nope.
Just poop, just pop it right in your mouth.
Our 30th,
Our
33rd flavor is
Yep. Tarantula.
tarantula mouth
Mouth
tarantula.
spiders.
Well, mouth spiders. Yep. Wait, hold on. There's an emergency on Flatbush Avenue.
Oh, I hear
Listen
it
to
this
that
time. I never
siren.
hear the emergencies, but I hear
Boy,
that
that
one.
one was loud. I like this moment in the van driving away because they get this pop song comes on.
Love it.
The song lyrics are ostensibly a man singing to a woman, but the lyrics are like, "We're not afraid, no way. We're gonna go on this adventure
Meet me
together."
up the mountain top.
Yeah.
You smell like lilac. I love the rose. You're wearing white and I'm wearing ivory. I'm like, oh, okay.
I love the direct translation because we just need to know the lyrics, but none of it rhymes.
No.
You can hear it rhyming in
Yeah.
the music, but in English it doesn't. Well, so they're all singing along. Oppo, the big guy, is kind of leading the charge.
Yeah.
And they're clapping, they're singing, they're whistling, having a great time. And then as we see the van driving down the road, it's an upside down shot.
Uh-huh.
As above, so below.
Yeah, that's it. You're through the looking glass.
Hmm. So as as in the pink, so in the stink.
That's right.
Well, they get a backup call, a 4455, which that's never explained what that is.
No clue. It's probably
In-
not good though.
I'm gonna see if I can get this name right. In Judge.
Yep.
It is on Wikipedia. It is spelled, and on my closed captioning, it is spelled INCAUGAC.
Yes.
In Judge.
Okay.
That's I took that as that's the equivalent. That is Turkey's Worcestershire.
Oh, yes, yes. You're like it's there's a bit of like it just
Uh-huh.
like
Yeah.
the letters are not necessarily indicative of what you're hearing.
Yes. It's no Irish, but it
No,
took me a second to sort
or
of
Welsh.
process what was
Yeah.
happening. So Sefi, while driving, is saying, I heard nasty stories about that place as a kid, but they're not specific. He's like, they say there's a bunch of shrines there. And they're like, well, how can
Yeah.
bad things happen in a place with shrines? He's like, no, it's not like that. It's not like high crime stories. I mean, like, that place is wicked.
Cursed. Yeah.
Cursed.
Like the kind of thing like which I kind of like that idea of like that's the reason why there are shrines there.
Yes.
There's like an ancient evil that we need to like cover up with as many like kind of stop gaps
Yeah.
of good that we can.
Yes. Well, then they realize
They've been driving on this road a long time.
they have, and also
10
the radio.
years.
He's like, I've been driving this road for 10 years. I haven't seen a sign. Also, their radio stopped working. Their police radio
know.
stopped working. Their cell phones aren't working.
That's not good.
And then Sefi slams on the brakes because he was like, I just saw a naked man run by.
Yeah. And it's like white naked.
Uh-huh.
Like like covered in white paint, white.
Yes. But they get out and they do not
Nope.
see nothing other than a giant pile of frogs in the road and a
Uh-huh.
bunch of crazy scratches all over the side of the van.
And it's also like the van like rocks back and forth while they're
Yeah.
outside, which I was like, what is
What?
happening? And they're like, well, he must have hit the van. Or maybe and the joke is like all the frogs all jumped at the van at once.
Yes.
I was like, oh, that's actually kind of cute if you think about it.
That would be really cute. Gross. The aftermath of which would be disgusting. They get out, they get back in the van, start driving, and then a bloody figure just runs in front of the van. Sophia
Uh-oh.
has no time to stop. They run this dude down. He swerves and they crash into a lake. And then suddenly, we're just back in that cafe again.
Yes,
Love it.
absolutely. I was like, what are we? Is this earlier that night? Is that
Uh-huh.
okay? Okay. And I like this. This reminds me a lot of Mulholland Drive. The
This
sort of
reminds me of the
wink,
diner scene.
the diners and the winky scene in
Yes.
Mulholland Drive. Because it's like, because now it's just Arda, baby-faced
The
rookie
rookie.
cop,
Yep.
and Ramsey boss.
Yes.
And it's just the two of them. The other cops are just kind of elsewhere in the restaurant, but they're having this very deep conversation, very dreamlike, talking literally about dreams
Yeah.
that kind of meanders through a couple different subjects, but there is this sort of sense of it's not a normal conversation,
No, it is very much like the Winky scene in
like a
Mulholland
heightened
Drive.
slash symbolic conversation.
It's a little tentative because it's hard to say to start telling a dream to somebody that you think is important
Yeah,
because it's very easy for somebody to be like, it's just a dream, man.
yeah. It's
But
not just a
Arda,
dream.
no,
It's we learned that Arda's got he's got a bit of the shining.
he does. And we're going to learn from his story that he was the boy at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. Thank you for
Love
closing that
that.
little buttonhole.
He had a friend named Koskun who they were hanging out. They went to go see a movie. That boy told him that day that he was in the room when his father died. And he said he saw his father's soul leave his body, whereas his brother was in the room too and did not see it. But Koskun definitely saw the soul leave the body. And then they get into a long conversation. This is the real story. This isn't the dream part. This is
Yeah.
just him telling the story about this actual kid that he grew up with. And he said, Artis says, Koskun and I promised each other that whoever died first would appear to the other without scaring him.
No scarebacks.
No scarebacks. And he said, after the movie, we kind of scared
And
each other.
they kind of creeped each other out a little bit. They're like, oh.
And Koskun went home and he said, that night, Artis says, I had a dream of people staring at me. And then Koskun comes out of the crowd. I was so frightened. And he holds my hand and tells me not to be scared. And then I hear moaning coming from my mother's room. And then he just explains that intro
Yeah.
scene. And he says, I can feel someone in my room, and it's Koskun. And the thought of seeing him scares me. And he says the next day we learned that Koskun had been hit by a car that night.
Now, what I find interesting here is that the no scarebacks part of the story is like the benevolent ghost, the benevolent spirit, which I really love because it means that there's a supernaturalness that's not evil, like pure evil.
Right.
But in the opening sequence, that hand that came out of that bedroom, that shit was evil. That
Yes.
was not your childhood friend, benevolent ghost being like, hey, buddy, I've crossed over. Have a good life. Goodbye. You know,
Uh-huh.
like that shit was evil.
Yeah. It,
So like, there's no quote right answer. Like, what he's describing matches what we saw in the beginning, but not quite.
right.
Not that one detail is kind of different, which makes me think that might have been this kid's dream, but what we saw was not the dream. What we saw was like what we're about ready to experience in hell is starting to like overlap
Yeah.
into quote reality.
I took it as, and this required a lot of thinking last night after finishing the movie, but I took it as, yeah, that hand is not Koskun. That hand is
No,
not his friend.
no.
But Koskun did do what he promised, and he
Yes.
appeared to him without scaring him. In fact,
Yeah.
he appeared to him to calm him through his
Hmm.
dream. I think the misleading line is that when Arda says I can feel someone in my room and that it's Koskun.
Hmm.
And like, well, I think you can feel him. Maybe you can. Maybe he's there, but he's not the only one there. What
Yeah.
Koskun didn't start any of this.
No.
What is that you and Koskun shared this ability, just like you share it with Boss
Hmm. Hmm.
and with Remzi. And there's a thing where in the veil between worlds is wafer thin.
Yeah.
And so the evil hands that reach out and want to borrow some toilet paper from your bedroom
Yeah.
door, those are different from your friends, but
Yeah.
by being able to access your pals in death, you also get to access these
Yeah.
sons of bitches.
Yeah. 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 But, you know, he's kind of telling the story, and then all of a sudden, blood starts pouring from the tablecloth.
Not before Remzi tells him, by the
Oh, right.
way,
No, the important, yeah,
do
important plot
you
point
see
here.
anyone else here?
Oh my God, I love this.
Oh,
He's
so
like,
good.
well, yeah, well, of course, we're here with the other guys. He's like, no, no, no. Like, essentially says, like, don't look with your eyes. Like, feel into the space. I'm like, oh my God, I love this.
Mm-hmm.
And then sure enough, there's someone in a black cloak, like right behind Ramsey.
So good. Also, when he looks around, yeah, I see the other guys. Their chairs are all empty, but their
Mm-hmm.
jackets are just sitting on the
Yep.
chairs. Yeah. And this is when the blood starts pouring out of the table and the ceiling, and then he falls backwards, and what he splashes into is not blood but water, and then he is in the lake.
There's actually another really fucking cool kind of composite shot here.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got like a full view of Arda like falling
Floating.
backwards into water, and then like a close up of like a giant's hand reaching into the water to pluck him out.
Yeah.
And like that's not necessary, but like how fucking dope is that? Because we know somebody, you know, like what the filmmakers are trying to express is Arda falls in water,
Yeah.
his friends pull him out.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing because of that surrealist, like, is it God's hand? Is it big? Like, why is it big? Why is he small? Like, it just fucks with our perception and it kind of gives a surrealist bent to it. Not necessary, but I fucking love those sprinkles on top.
Yeah. I mean, there is a thing wherein, like, I think about fashion when I think about styles of filmmakers, and I don't think you have to be a wildly stylistic filmmaker to be an auteur. Steven Spielberg is like
Sure.
the filmmaking equivalent of like a quarter zip and chinos, but he's really good. He wears it well. He's a
Yeah.
perfect filmmaker. He doesn't do a lot of like the stylistic flair that he does, the kind of really good things are just so hyper competent and
Yeah.
well thought
Yeah.
through. He's such a master of his craft that every movie he makes is the worst film he makes is so watchable.
Yeah.
And but then you have other people who are like, hey, this shot of these like the giant hand reaching into the water, not necessary. You know what else is not necessary? A brooch, eye makeup, cool fucking kicks. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
don't need any of that, but you know what? It makes you look badass if you do it
Right.
well.
Yeah. And it's real subtle. Like it doesn't, you know, like we don't see the hand grab him. It's just like just enough to like kind of fuck with your mind a bit.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to the very realistic scene of cops pulling Arda coughing and sputtering out of the lake.
Yes.
But what a great transition from the sort of surrealist diner scene to the realistic crash scene,
Yeah.
post crash scene.
And then there's so many Twin Peaksy things. I mean, already like the veil between worlds. This diner is the Black Lodge,
Yep.
right? It's just this kind of like non-temporal space,
Yeah.
right? A place outside of space and time. And then also the first face we see at this crash site at the lake is the giant who
Yeah.
shows up with a lantern staring at them.
Also wearing mostly white,
Hmm.
similar to the person that ran across the road earlier.
Yeah. I don't know uh what we would describe this, this group of people as, like, ethnically or culturally.
I mean, I would say like probably pretty Romani slash
Yeah, that was my guess.
transient slash, yeah, like, but they're, like we've got, like I at least saw like one little babushka tied around a, like a little kerchief tied
Yeah,
around
I
a
wasn't
head
sure. Yeah. But
would be my guess
there is
though.
a moment where the little girl speaks, and it says in the subtitle is speaks native language.
Oh, I didn't even get that. It was
Yeah.
just like, just the subtitles cut out for a minute. And I was like, oh, she just said something that I hope y'all understand because I do not.
No, she just speaks native language or native tongue or whatever. And so I just was curious about that. But it definitely gives the vibe of Romani people.
Yeah.
And they are, yeah, they look
They're sitting
poorer.
by they're sitting by a campfire. But it's also the idea. This also reminds me. Did you ever watch The Kingdom, the
No.
TV show The Kingdom?
Mm-mm.
There's another kind of idea of like people who are um, touched by God. This idea of like the people that operate between spaces, people that are unusual, have gifts
Yeah.
on the psychic level. So here we have somebody who's like kind of making fun of the cops. They're like, "Oh, did you fall in the water? Did you fall in the water, you bad cops?"
Mm-hmm.
And of course, asshole cop is like getting up his face, and the other people at the camp are like, "No, no, he's slow. He's just don't pay any attention to him."
Yeah.
Children, the girl who's like says whatever the fuck she says
While,
to
like,
them,
tapping out some rhythm on the pot full of
right?
frogs.
Yeah. Like these people live in the liminal space between real world and hell world.
Yes.
And they know how appropriately frightened of hell world they should be.
Yeah.
Like, and I kind of love that because they're like, oh, we're trying to get to that neighborhood that I can't remember how to
In
pronounce it.
Judge
Yeah.
police station.
And they're like, yeah, it's just like 200 meters over there. Have fun. They're like, no, you're going to show us. They're like,
Uh,
like you can see the discomfort. They're like, "No, we don't want to go there." Yeah, it's just through the orchard. Just keep going.
one of the guys walks them to this police station, and there's a prowler outside with the doors open and the lights are on, but no one's in it.
Yep, that's not
Two,
good.
all the windows are busted out. Also, this is a totally different architecture, and that the local is basically saying, yeah, back in the Ottoman days, this was a police station. Later, it became a stable, and now it's just been deserted for as long as I can
Just
remember.
abandoned.
And I think it's Yavuz who's like, I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing.
I know. Of course, what a dick.
Yeah. And so they go in to check it out, and once he's free, that local guy runs off and he shouts, "Fuck the police."
Yeah, I know, right? Fuck the police.
So all around this place are just these fucked up looking totems hanging from things.
Oh no, somebody's been up on Etsy.
Oh,
Hair totems.
uh-uh.
That's the 36th flavor at Baskin. Baskin.
Oh yeah, we did 32 was soap frog.
Yeah, soap frog.
33 was mouth spider.
My spiders.
And so we're
Hair
at 30,
totem.
34
34.
is hair totem.
Yeah.
This is great. Yeah.
Hairball totems.
Hairball totems. Okay, hairball totems and bone chimes.
Oh
I've
God.
said it about bone chimes. You see
Yep.
somebody with bone wind chimes. I don't care if they're human bones or cow bones. Bone chimes, leave.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're in a horror movie.
Yeah.
Don't do that shit. But inside this building, it is the full-on Blair Witch cabin.
Yeah. This is where the cinematography got a little like I think it kind of triggered my like quease factor.
Uh-huh.
The like the similar to the Cloverfield of like seeing handheld cam too close Yeah, I was like, no, guys, can we just focus on one thing, please? I know we're going for a style, but oh, my tummy. I need that ginger ale with bitters right now.
And it's funny because I had the same sort of response, but it's not. I don't think it's the camera that's moving. I think it's because
It's
it's the
flashlight
flashlight
spotlight. Yeah.
can't hold still,
Oh my God.
and it's mostly effective. I do wish they had held a steady flashlight
Yeah.
and then slowly moved it across
Yeah.
to another point, because and then you could do the quick back. Wait, what did I just see?
Yeah.
That sort of
Yeah.
thing. But this shit's scary. I mean, just a camera just following a flashlight in darkness, that shit's
Yeah.
scary as hell. They find a cop who is
Oh
fully Blair
no.
Witching himself,
Full Blair Witch cop.
just standing in the corner, facing away from them, banging.
Slowly banging his head against the wall.
Oh man,
Sir? Sir?
tough day at
Uh,
work.
excuse me, sir?
Uh huh. He's like, oh, it's
Do you have a
only
permit to do that
Tuesday. It's
here? Excuse
only
me, sir. This is a
Tuesday.
Baskin Robbins. You can't do that here.
Yeah, and he does not
He's
talk.
he's fully nonverbal. That
Yeah.
that's the creepiest part. Like they're like, "Hey, what happened to your unit?" And he just goes, and points off to the distance, and there's just like a cop hat,
On
and
the
that's
ground.
it.
Yep.
I'm like, "Oh, you guys, come on. Please recognize you're in a horror film.
You've
This is
got
not
to
a normal
acknowledge.
this is not a normal night out at work, you guys."
Uh-uh.
Like, and they're like, "Don't worry, dude. We've called backup." They haven't called backup because the
No.
radio in the cop car doesn't work at all. The car doesn't even, oh, they don't have keys to the car. He has no identification on him. So they tell Queasy, take him back to the car,
Yep.
and then they go to sort of investigate what the cop was pointing at. And it is just a full on, like, 7-story stone stairwell
This
into
from the
hell.
outside, this is a two-story building.
Oh, yeah.
And they enter on the ground floor, and then
Yep.
there is like you said, like a 7-floor downward
Like it's
spiral
so deep you
staircase.
can't even see the bottom of it, which is like, I love this. Listen, if you've seen Mad God,
Yeah,
we're in Mad God territory here.
we really are. We really, really are. Well, Sefi, the Queasy cop, is taking Catatonic cop to the car,
Oh my
but
God.
along
And
the
then,
way, he goes full ADHD, Cecil, and he's like, "Look, a frog," and then he just follows it
I
into
know he
another
follows the
room.
frog. Like, don't follow the fucking frog. And what
And
does he stumble upon?
a
Blood orgy.
blood orgy, and it is
Wednesdays are blood orgy day at Baskin.
okay. So yeah, flavor 35 is blood orgy,
Uh-huh.
which is so close to blood orange, which sounds like a really
It's
good sherbet.
blood orgy sherbet. Blood orgy sorbet. Don't
Gross.
mind if I
And
do.
everyone has like
It's
masks on that look like they're made out of black garbage bags. Some of them look like handcrafted out of construction paper. Some
well,
look like
it's
they're
like
made of
we don't even
skin.
know because again, the way it's shot is so handy shaky cam. It's real hard to get a handle on anything.
Yes.
But like it's two people making sort of sex motions covered in blood, but like yeah, they're bound in some way on their head, their arms, it's hard to get a good read on what the situation is. You know, when you're at the club and you wander into a room and you're like, where am I? And you realize, oh no, I'm in the sex room. And you have that moment of like, oh shit, do I stay in the sex room or should I leave the sex room? Y'all should leave the sex room.
You should. You really should. Leave the sex room is great advice.
I mean, unless you want to dive in and then fully dive into the sex room, but like you have that liminal moment where you're like, oh no, oh. No. Later, I need another drink before I get into this.
He reacts way too slowly to this, and they're on him quickly.
Yeah, they are. Like dragging it. What I love is you know that this film is not American because all these cops never get off more than like only one cop gets any shots out of the gun and doesn't hit a goddamn thing.
No, and it's more like warning shots, like running and
Yeah.
just shooting into the air.
Yeah.
And then outside by not even to the car yet, the catatonic cop is just still standing there and he's just laughing to himself.
I know.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
All right, let's go down the stairwell into hell.
Okay.
They find a candlelit shrine down there, which is candles lit is an indication that someone has been here recently.
Recently. There's like chains. This is very Hellraiser. Like there's like chains, just the tinkling, tankling, jingling, jangling of chains from the ceiling. There's like masks hanging from the chains.
Oi. Oi.
Yeah.
There's freaky blood drawings everywhere.
Like I like the blood drawings a lot actually, because like I don't know, you know me, I love creepy child art when they're like, our child seems to be having like, what is this drawing? And the drawing is the secret to the entire fucking movie. I feel like it's a good passive storytelling way, like as opposed to active storytelling, like what the fuck is going on here? And if you look at those drawings, you kind of see most of what's to come
You really
in
do.
the drawings, which I love a mythology. I love a good mythology building moment.
And I like a mythology that doesn't spell every fucking thing out. That just
Yes, thank you.
Wait, who is this cult? Who do they worship? Why are they here? Are they actually there? Are they really? All of these things. I'm like, it kind of doesn't matter. It's more just the ride we're on.
You know what their vibe is.
We do know.
It doesn't
their
matter
vibe.
how they got to that vibe as much.
Their ethos is not so clear. Vibe 100% perfectly clear.
They're very on point. They're very specific about like what to wear to the blood orgy.
So they also come across like a body in a cage and then body bags, and then they see the butcher woman who is disemboweling with the man with a knife, and then
there's like
eating
butcher
out
woman,
of his belly like a trough.
Yeah, she's like eating somebody's tummy, which
But
is
like,
the 36 flavor is just tummy.
And
Can I have 2 scoops of tummy?
She's eating it like she's in the pie eating contest in Stand By Me.
God, yes, absolutely. And we've got a couple different things. Like the 3 cops have somehow managed to separate, which brilliant. So we've got Yavu's asshole cop sees a woman in a cage and he's like, oh no, what am I possibly looking at? And there's a dude, like a huge man wearing a trash bag with a mallet sneaking up behind him. There's Boss Ramsey looking at, I think Boss Ramsey and Arda and babyface Arda are in the same hell room with the woman eating tummy, 2 scoops of tummy.
Yeah.
And then in a sort of simultaneous moment, all hell breaks loose. Like each of them realize, oh no, we're in a bad situation.
Oh, I think we're in hell.
I think we should maybe leave now.
And they try running away, but they're all getting dragged down. And then, boom, we're back in Arda's childhood home.
And I love this again with the transition. So it's like Arda's running through a tunnel. He thinks Ramsey is behind him. Ramsey's suddenly not behind him. And he's like dragging his hand along the tunnel. And then there's like a portrait, like a black and white photograph of someone very respectable. And then, which unusual. And then he's in his childhood apartment with that portrait. So like, again, like the transitions are
really
it's
good.
very David Lynch in that like there's a bleed over from one thing to the next. It's not a hard cut all the time. And I love that.
And in this one, the adult Arda is standing in the living room by the static television, and he sees his younger self at his mom's door, and the hand comes out of the bedroom door, and his younger self follows the hand back into that doorway. Uh-oh. And then he's back in the cafe with Boss Ramsey.
Yeah.
And Ramsey's like, we're at a crossroads. We were summoned. Don't know by what.
Yep.
But there was no call for backup.
And he's like, and I don't know if it's you, if it's you and me or if it's all of us.
Yeah.
Again, this is again very like David Lynch, kind of this idea of y'all are about ready to go into the Black Lodge, but sort of like the Bookhouse Boys. There's a like there's a bond formed between people of good,
Uh-huh.
even in the worst of the worst, like even in the worst of times against the forces of hell, there is still a psychic bond that can be made amongst the fighters for good.
Right. Well, then he also says, I used to see, Ramsey says, I used to be able to see these figures talking to my grandmother. And I realized that you too can see them, Arda. And I found that interesting that he says his grandmother, he could see the figures talking with his grandmother,
Mhm.
which sort of ties into, I think the bigger idea here is hell is what you take with you. And if you're incapable of confronting, this is
Yeah. It's Jacob's Ladder.
Babadook as well. Like
Yeah.
you can't actually rid yourself of the thing. You can
Yeah.
only hope to
You can
contain
only
it.
reframe devils to angels. Angels
Yes.
appear like devils if you're not
Yeah.
one with JC upstairs,
Yeah. So they let's see, hold on, let me pause for just a second. Blah blah blah. So once we have this realization that there's something about this connection in this space that Remzi and Arda have, and that they can both see these
Others.
figures.
Yeah.
Now they're back into the cult dungeon, and all four of our remaining cops are tied up, chained up
Yes.
to pillars.
Yep.
Apo, who got clocked with a
Yep.
giant mallet, is still alive, but CTE.
Yeah, he's not doing so
He's
good.
not fully
He's
there.
literally got like little like stars,
Uh-huh,
like little
yes.
Tweety birds going around his head.
Yeah, he really, yes.
Yavuz is just fuck this, fuck you. Don't you know we're fucking cop? Fuck. And of course Arda and Remzi, the two protagonists, the two smartest, are just like more just trying to shocked, but trying to stay still. Just trying to stay chill.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's a way in which you can approach life,
Hmm.
and Yavuz is ready to fight it every step of the way
Yeah.
and thinks he can use his power to get what he wants,
Kind
whereas
of
like
loud mouth.
Sefia
Yeah.
is like the nervous jittery one, like
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
the one
Yeah.
who can't really face anything because he's scared of it. And so yeah, the approach is Arda and Remzi, just try and concentrate on yourself.
Yeah. Just be in the moment.
Uh-huh.
See what comes. Oh, and what comes next? Daddy's home.
Daddy and mommy are home because
Oh
we
my
see mommy
God.
first.
Yeah, we do. I love. Oh my God. Yes. This actually was giving me very like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre family
Uh-huh.
kind of. There is a like. I'm glad you said that there is kind of a weird family unit
Yeah.
because as we get deeper into this blood cult, there's a like it also reminded me of what was the other Clive Barker about the devil magician cult. Um it's
Oh, damn
like
it.
the cult out in the desert, and Scott
Yes.
Bakula is like trying to escape,
Is it
investigate the cult.
is this Nightbreed?
No, it
No,
wasn't
no, no, no.
Nightbreed. Oh crap. Darkness. Lords of Illusion, that's it.
Oh, there you go. Oh,
Daughters
yes,
of Daughters
yes.
of Darkness, Lords of Illusion, one of
That's
those.
right.
Yeah. But there's that kind of like, so mom is got like uh hay for hair,
Uh-huh.
and she's just sort of tidying up the place, really. She comes from like a long, cool descending staircase that's pretty awesomely lit.
Hmm.
And all of our little blood orgy cult members are all very like, we're not worthy on the ground.
Yeah.
Like they're not attacking the cops. They're just sort of like chilling. They're like little bumble puppies, just waiting to see what mom and dad tell them to do next.
Yeah. And mom is big. She's very tall.
Yeah.
I mean, and also the actor playing the father
Yeah.
is a very small figured person.
And I like that mom always has like one hand out in kind of like a like almost like when you see in like the like Orthodox saint,
Uh-huh.
like the blessing kind of hand
Yeah,
that you
agreed.
find in like, Russian Orthodox icons.
Agreed.
It's just weird. It's just an unusual but really interesting physical choice.
Sorry, I have to. I'm
Is Robert being an
giving in
asshole?
to terrorist demands here because he's shaking my door and meowing now.
Like you will recognize me.
I opened the door and he didn't even move. He just
I
is.
am your son.
He's like, I heard you talking about father and I missed father. Hello, son. All right. So we'll see how this goes. So father shows up and he has a kind of a wash your hands ritual.
Yes.
And he approaches Yavuz, who is doing the most shouting about how dare you chain the
Oh.
police. And he walks up to Yavuz. One, father has a keyhole in his forehead.
Yeah.
He's
And he's
wearing,
wearing locks and he's wearing like chains and locks
yeah,
along his body,
he's,
which is one of the eye like one of the, among the blood eggs and the hairball wind
uh,
chimes. We saw a couple of locks on one of the altars upstairs.
yep. And he approaches Yavuz. He laughs at his, you know, arrogance.
Don't you know who we are? Yeah.
And he gives this speech where he says, hell is not a place you go. You carry hell with you at all times. You carry it inside you. Great quote. Love it.
Just like Disney World, right?
That's it. That's right. Fate chose us for you. We can only be shepherds for you. And I love this because at this
Yeah.
point, I'm like, all of this is very pithy, very sharp. It's very vaguely religious in a way
Yeah.
that makes sense upon hearing it, but
Uh-huh.
might fall apart with more critical
Oh,
thinking.
absolutely.
And what I love is that I feel like it gives a sense we might not actually be in hell. This might actually
Mhm.
just be a bonkers fucking cult.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just enough supernatural stuff happens in this movie beyond the Black Lodge Cafe that I don't think
Yeah.
you
So
could
far,
read this as we are in hell and these people aren't
oh,
real,
sure.
whatever.
Like everything we've seen in this abandoned building,
Uh-huh.
nothing is quote unquote supernatural. It's the very limits of the natural, but
Yes.
it's not levitation. It's not magic, but it is nothing you would want to encounter on an average Wednesday night.
It is not. And so now we're going to watch Father start one by one. He's going to
Yep.
torture and murder each of these four men, or
But
he's
it's
going to
not
attempt
just,
to.
it is torture and murder. I'm not
Yes.
saying it's not, but it has a bit of a like, he's like testing each of them,
Uh-huh.
probing each of them.
Literally probing.
Yeah. And again, going back to this idea of there is again like this idea in the Zoroastrian sort of afterlife, there's this sort of Baba figure, this like kind of an antichrist stand-in sort of, but essentially like when your soul dies and you one cross a bridge, which they did in the
Uh-huh.
beginning,
Oh,
that
true.
is like kind of again the like if you were good the bridge is easy to cross, if you're bad it's very narrow to cross, and a demon appears before you, well, here we go. And he sort of tests you. A lot of ancient religions have this idea of like, we're going to weigh the weight of your soul against a feather and see, and if it's heavy with sin, you get cast down into the depths.
Mm-hmm.
So with Oppo, Oppo's kind of out of it. He's not going to be very much good to us. We can't do much testing. So Father just like casually runs his finger.
Yeah, we can see they've
Uh,
already opened his
yeah.
belly up and it's stitched closed all except for like one sausage link hanging out the front. And he uses his finger to tear open those stitches like he just got his Amazon shipment and he couldn't
Yep,
find his
that's it.
box
Just
cutter. Go just stick your finger under that
just
tape
whip
and rip.
stitched. Yep, just whip
Oh!
stitch that thing across. And then he, like with all the time in the world, just takes one end of it, and it's like
Oh, I
when
love
like
this so
it's
much.
like, he just walks away like when you're walking away from a vacuum cleaner with the
Yeah,
retractable cord.
yeah. And then he, once it's all out of Oppo, he just has this long intestine and he just starts just carefully rolling it into a ring like you do with a microphone cord.
Yeah,
Like he's like, well, now I have to put this away.
I know. Like, I
I
mean,
take
like,
care of my
yeah,
cords.
like don't like the garden hose. You can't just throw that shit anywhere. You've got to wind it back up
Yeah, and get the
to
kinks
store
out of
it.
it so it forms a nice circle rather than
Yeah.
just a wad. Yeah. Yeah, he folds it up like really. I just kept thinking it was like, oh, this he's a podcaster. That's his mic cord. You have to be
Shut
really
up. Oh
careful
my
with
God.
those.
Last podcast on the left.
I would
For
listen to
real.
his podcast. Yeah. I'm very curious as to what this man has to say. So Oppo's done.
Yeah, Oppo's no good to us.
Then the father takes off his like cloak. Like father is ripped. He
Yeah.
takes off his coat and I'm like, "Damn, you've been working
Yeah.
out."
Yeah.
And he puts a step stool in front of Yavuz.
Because he's got to look him right in the eye. Like the father, bit of a short guy complex of
Short
like,
king.
I'm gonna look you in the eye.
Yeah.
Bring me my step stool, mother.
Love him. Love a short king. And he steps up eye to eye with Yavuz, and we get this, son, what is your name?
Yeah.
And he's like, we're the goddamn law. Do you think your law is here?
God. Oh God.
And then he was handed the tiniest little katana blade, like it's in a scabbard and everything, and he
It's like a little
unsheathes
tiny
it.
knife. Tiny knife.
And he unsheathes this tiny sword, and he says, are you ready to open your eyes to what's beyond? I'm like, oh no, you're not gonna do this.
Uh-oh.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
And then he gouges Yavuz's eyes out with that knife.
And I especially love it. It's like, and it's the sequence leading up to it because we've seen a lot of eye gouging, especially in the Italian horror masters, zombie, et cetera, et cetera. And it's always the like, there's a sharp thing coming at your eye. And this
Mm-hmm.
sequence lasts for 5 minutes because that's the tension. In this, it's a tweak on that version
Uh-huh.
because Ramsey shouts out, he's like, shut your eyes. Like bad, like don't give him the power, don't look. And then Baba just goes, Yavuz, like real quiet. And fucking Yavuz opens his eye.
Stab.
Boom, right in the eye.
Oh,
So it's a bit of a like inverse.
that's
It's
really
like,
good.
yeah, it's a rather than the slow long build up, it's like sort of and then quick. But then
Then what does he
third,
do, Cecil? Is he
the
it sounds like he's done. Like Yavuz
sound
feels like he
wouldn't
learned
he be
his
done?
lesson.
The 36 flavor at Baskin is eye jelly because Baba, father, just full on French kisses Yavuz's eye socket. Just like
I've
gets his tongue up in like does the little swirly around.
just really works at do we should we just call this like French socket kiss or
Bro.
eye jelly's pretty good. I think that's more evocative of
Like
flavor.
yeah, eye jelly.
Oh, eye socket.
Ugh.
Ugh.
But he's not dead, and they only do one eye because Yavuz has got more to do.
Yeah. Actually, if you go to Cold Stone, they will fuck your eye socket if you ask.
But
If
the
it's your
downside
birthday,
is
it's free.
the downside is they sing a song about it while they do it.
Yeah, I don't need that while you're tongue fucking my eye socket. God damn it.
Happy birthday! This is your special day. Happy birthday! That's all we came to say.
Oh, good lord. Boy, this was the moment that got me when his tongue went into this man's eye socket. I just
Yeah, yeah. It's next level. I mean, it's pretty next level.
It's really next level.
But they're like, wait. Let's bring out Grandma.
Bring out the gimp.
Bring out Gimpy Grandma.
But this was very much like the Pulp Fiction Bring Out the Gimp because you have
Yep.
somebody with
It's
it's a
like they
different
literally, they don't ring a
it's
bell, but they're like in a walled off room.
well, it's a chained up woman on her knees who is naked other than like a grass skirt and a a skull like a deer skull mask.
Yeah. Blind, being led by mother
Yes.
by a chain, which we actually saw a the artwork version of this, almost like the prototype of this
Oh yeah.
entity upstairs.
Yes. And they want Yavuz to come. They want Yavuz to come.
Yes,
They
they
want
do.
him to.
We're having a Midsommar moment here.
We are. We're going. Oh, there was another Midsommar moment when they gouge his eyes. It cuts to all of the bloody masses who all start clutching their own eyes.
Yes. Oh, the shared pain, the kind of thing. Oh, you're right. Yeah,
Here we
yeah, yeah.
go. Well, this is really sad and so hard to watch as just this poor actor who's
I
having to
know.
like be sobbing with his eyes gouged out and he's
Yep.
having to ritualistically fuck
Fuck, dear
this
grandma.
dear grandma and
Dear,
it's
dear grandma.
and eventually the father comes over to him and he's like, it's not working because you're not opening your heart or your mind to any of this. And
You're
to be
not really.
fair to
I get the. I mean,
Yavuz,
I feel like
he's got a lot of other things on the agenda today.
you're going through the motions, but you're not like. I mean, do you like me or do you like me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And as much as I like really kind of hated the sort of transphobic story at the beginning,
Uh-huh.
we're essentially seeing a reenactment of that story.
Yes.
He's
Yeah.
blinded in the dark, fucking somebody who, what, like the sex act that he's like, like the loudmouth, like, I'll fuck a dog, I'll fuck a chicken, I'll fuck anything kind of
Yeah.
thing. And here he is having to kind of put his dick where his mouth is,
Yes. That's you got to remove a rib or two to be able to do that. But
you
yeah,
know?
essentially, metaphorically, totally.
A
And
similar to like when Ramsey was like, "Oh, you want to fuck this kid up? All right, here, I'll take your gun.
show him your
Stop.
boss. Yeah.
Yeah, listen, stop talking, and if you're gonna fight, then fight." And here's like, "Stop talking if you want. Oh, you want to fuck? You'll fuck anything? Well, here's your chance."
Well, Yavuz then collapses dead, and a tarantula crawls out of his mouth.
And then which is, I'm sorry, Jeffrey,
Mm-hmm.
but it is the glee with which Mother comes through to collect that tarantula that gave me such joy.
I love Mother. I would watch a sequel to this movie that is all about the life of Mother.
Just like tidying up the cave
Oh,
because she throws bones at one point. She's reading the signs. She's like, she just takes things. She's like, oh, well, okay, well, I don't know if that worked or not, but here we go. Let's take this little spider. We're gonna make that part of a ritual later.
uh-huh.
Her cookbook is slapping.
Oh my God.
What does she
Absolutely.
feed? What do you do when you have 12 to 16 cult members show up on a high Antichrist holiday and you don't have a thing to feed them?
This woman can slap together a casserole faster
Right?
than you can blink your eyes. I mean, it's going to have tarantula parts in it.
It's going to have tarantula and lower intestines, but you
Yep.
know what? It's good for a barbecue.
It's so good. She'll have ice cream. She has many flavors of ice cream to offer. So, all right. So that happens. Then, we're also going to see a moment before Mother leaves. Grandma then gets into
Oh,
a metal tub, leans against the wall, squats, and gives birth to the Eraserhead baby.
yeah, pretty much.
She just
But
like
it's
gives
just
birth to like a lava rock the
yeah,
size
like
of
it
a medicine ball.
it's like the way like giraffes give birth.
Yeah.
It just kind of tumbles on out and it's not alive. But again, mother's like, oh, a
Yay!
grandbaby. Oh, here we go.
Scoops it up and then runs up that spiral
So
staircase, and we
excited.
don't see her again.
But we get and I think father says something effective like, it didn't work.
Uh-huh.
The baby was, you are not the Antichrist father.
You are not the father.
That, no, as Maury Povich famously said, um, because it's sort of stillborn. But listen, waste not, want not. That's going to make a lovely casserole later.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It'll keep in your fridge for months. Or in your freezer, I
Fucking
mean.
can it, pickle it.
Oh, pickle anything.
Absolutely. Pickled Eraserhead baby, I think is flavor 37 at Baskin.
30. We're up to 38. 37 was eye
38.
jelly.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. Yeah, pickled baby or pickled dead baby.
I'm just gonna write I think
Funfetti.
Eraserhead baby does it all.
Yeah,
I
Eraserhead
I
baby. Sure.
I really do get a sense of what the flavor is, like that
Yes,
flavor and
absolutely.
texture of that.
Like large forehead.
We're
Very
gonna
large forehead.
By the end of this episode, I think we'll have Baskin Robbins at 41
Yeah, I
flavors.
think so.
Okay, so now the father's on to young rookie Arda. There's a moment where he chants something at Arda,
Yeah.
and it says, parentheses, native language.
Yeah.
So I wondered if it was the same speech as that young
Yeah.
girl. Then the father licks his tiny sword.
Oh,
Then
of
he
course.
sucks on his own finger and then touches Arda's third eye.
And he's like, oh, you can see.
Uh-huh.
Oh, this is not a you. You're not like your dipshit colleagues.
Yeah, you're special. And then Ramsey calls to just like, get your ass over here, mess with me,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
him.
Fuck with me. Don't. Yeah.
And he does. He goes to Ramsey and he calls Ramsey by name. So
Hmm.
they have
He also
talked
calls
before.
Arda by name, which I think is really weird
Yeah.
because he had to ask Yavuz's name, but he already knows Arda's name and he already knows Ramsey's name, which is
Uh-huh.
unusual.
Yeah. And he asked Ramsey, he's like, he saw it too, right? And then he just cuts Ramsey's neck open and then starts washing his face in the
Yeah,
blood
just
spewing out of his neck.
like a L'Oreal commercial. Like microdermabrasion, like Eva Longoria, just like full double splash
Oh, fuck.
of warm blood.
Uh-huh. God damn. This was, I mean, I was done gagging at this point, but this is still really gross. But
Yeah.
this was just too glorious of a choice from
I mean,
the
it's
director here to have
that
him do
skincare
that.
regimen is
Oi.
Princess Bathory is jelly.
I mean, I just basically have like a CeraVe face scrub. That's it.
I
Like
know.
that's
I
really
like
all of that and a moisturizer
I'm a
sometimes.
moisturize and go kind of guy, but
Yeah.
this is like, listen, it's the high holiday. Like, treat yourself.
Okay, so flashback, Arda is in the cafe again.
Back to the transcendental cafe.
The TV in the cafe now is showing static,
Yep.
and his head hurts. Blood is pouring across the floor, and then he looks over the table. Ramsey's not there, but he looks over the table. There's Ramsey on the floor dying.
And his throat is cut.
And I loved this line because he is comforting Arda's crying, and he's like, we're gonna get you out of this. Backup is on its way. And again, we're always lying to ourselves.
I know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like when we tell little children it'll be okay, and you're like, child, it's not gonna be. You got to prepare for not okay.
Yeah, and it's really it's tough to know how to really broach the truth, especially with
Yeah,
children, but even with adults, like how you may have to ease into the truth, but you do
yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
to confront truths. And this is not the truth. There is no backup on its way.
Yeah.
Ramsey's not going to be saved. And Ramsey just says, whoever dies first shall appear to the other without scaring him. He says, I made a promise to your uncle when he handed you off to me to raise you. I made a promise to your uncle that nothing bad would happen, because if anything bad happens to you, I'm going to pay for it in the afterlife.
Yep. Well, I think we're there.
Yep. And the hooded figure, I guess, is the father, is coming up behind
Yeah.
them in the cafe. And Ramsey says, I only have one key in this life, and it is yours now.
Which is interesting because that's something he said before they walked into the abandoned building that made no sense. It's like a throwaway line. Like they're, you know, they see the police cruiser with the lights going and they're all in very cop mode. And Ramsey says, I have, like, don't worry, I have a key. And
Yeah.
it's apropos of nothing. So you just
Uh
kind of go, well, there's a lot of information being thrown at you at that point. But you're like, a key, stay with me, I have a key. So
huh.
like, I'm glad they planted that seed earlier to bring
Yeah.
it back now.
Agreed. And Arda reaches his fingers into Ramsey's neck wound. And love this so much because it's disgusting,
Yeah.
but the movie is taking all of the vile, disgusting things and essentially saying, may not all seem necessary, but at some point in time, you are going to have to get your hands dirty with some
Yeah.
crazy shit you don't want any part of.
Like your salvation, your way out is not going to just be handed to you. You have to get your hands dirty, like you said.
It's whatever
Like,
whatever the last near the end of Shawshank Redemption, where he's like,
yeah.
crawled through 400 feet of
Yep.
shit,
Yep.
and
And it's like you have to look into the face of the man who practically raised you into his, like he had to sacrifice himself and you have to touch the wound to pull out the means of your escape.
yeah,
This is the weirdest escape room I've ever been to.
it's so weird. I always forget to check the dead bodies' necks for keys.
Ugh, crap. That's why I can never win.
The father is coming up right behind him and he says, everything ends, everything starts anew. And Arda turns around and jams that key into the father's forehead, who stumbles back. Yep. He basically gets like electrified and falls
Yeah.
backwards.
But I love it. It's very mythological. It's
Uh-huh.
like, like only the like it's a clash of the titans. Like, how do you kill a titan? You have to kind of find the key in the hidden thing,
Yeah.
you know?
There's a weakness somewhere in
Yeah.
there. There's an
It's
Achilles
and it's a
heel.
very specific, like you have to kind of like flip the script a little bit. It's very ancient mythology. Now, what comes next is much more Ari Roth.
Eli Roth or Ari
Eli Roth,
Aster?
sorry,
Oh
not Ari
yeah.
Roth. Yeah, Eli
Eli
Roth. Because
uh
the like father is like he's been decommissioned.
yeah, he seems fully dead.
Yeah, like you've put the key into the keyhole. Father is, but Arda, he's like, I'm gonna take your stool
Uh-huh.
and I'm going to bash the key into your head until I am covered in blood.
Uh-huh.
We're having a very like Bruce Campbell, like blood madness kind of moment.
He goes fully blood mad. Reminds me of like Mandy, because also like the lights shift
Yes.
fully red and blue,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
And his eyes, like, yeah. Like in his like his eyes are the only part that are not saturated in blood, so they really pop.
mhm. Yeah, he
He's like
splatters this man's
crying.
skull. We never see the actual skull
No,
get
no.
crushed. It's more about the blood
Splashback. Yeah.
splashing all over him. And also, we can see the other cult members, and they're all still on the ground,
They're real
clutching
sad.
themselves and sobbing.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, too, because,
You
like,
killed it. You killed
you
Dad
killed the
Dad.
queen bee. Yeah.
Yeah. And mother, she just kind of like runs away.
Yeah, she's
Oh
done.
no, she had taken
The
Eraserhead
baby.
baby
Yeah.
upstairs to
Yeah.
go pickle.
To go pickle the baby.
I mean, you got to do it while it's fresh.
Yeah, you really do. And
So
so
Arda just like walks out.
yeah, and all of this is in slow mo, really. It's a
Mhm.
lot of slow motion stuff of him getting out of the old police station, and then he's like really beaten up and shambling, and he's
Yeah.
turns into laughing. And
Yeah.
I just wrote, oh, this ending is taking too long. It's not going to end well.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
you kind of
yeah.
thought once
It's
the
not
key
an
went
easy
in, you're
out.
like, saved.
Yeah.
But that ending goes on for a while, so you know some bad shit's about to happen. And then he walks out into the road, and I'm like, oh no,
Yeah.
they're gonna do this.
We've got a wraparound story, don't we?
Uh-huh. And I'm fine with this ending because it
I'm
reminds
into
me
it.
of Southbound. I'm fine with a
Yeah.
closed loop sort of thing.
Yep.
But yeah, he tries to flag down a van, but they
Yep.
don't see him. They run him down, and it is them from earlier then crashing into the lake. And I wrote, Baskin!
But there's one difference.
Yeah.
When you see the van after it's crashed in the lake, there's no
Oh.
one inside. There's no one inside the van.
Oh.
So even though it's not a full complete loop, it's like the what Arda went through, Arda kind of like released them from this sort of cycle of karma of
Oh,
bullshit.
interesting.
So it's
Interesting.
not a total like, oh my gosh, they're going to have to relive this over and over and over again. It's like, oh, he really is this sort of savior figure.
Oh, that's really interesting. I didn't even clock that at all.
Yeah,
Um,
because it's really quick and it's hard to see into the van, but I was like, oh, there's nobody there. Oh,
it was too hard to think much about that scene because we immediately go to a title card and then death metal.
the most metal.
Uh-huh.
And some really like David Baldwin art approved end
Oh my
credits.
God. Oh my God, yeah. And it was I loved the credits because it would splash like blood red splash the credits up on the screen, and it would have like cast list or technical credits, and then each time like all the names would get crossed out and it would disappear.
Yes.
But I love the crossing out of the names. Shall we rate this movie, Cecil?
Yes, let's.
All right, how approachable is this movie if you are horror film averse? Well, I do a scale of 1 to 10 for approachability, 1 being the least approachable and 10 being very approachable, very easygoing. I mean, I'm going to give Baskin one bucket of strip steak. I mean, that yeah, no, don't if you're not ready for if you heard
Mm-mm.
any of this episode, I think you already know whether or not you can make it through this movie. I think it's a really great subjective. I think it's a very good movie, and I really enjoyed it. I think it's doing a lot of really cool shit. And I was so excited about this movie, but man, it's a hard watch. What did I write down? We've got torture, sexual assault. We've got the trans and homophobic language. I mean, I will suggest that like there's 2 scenes of graphic vomiting in this
Oh yeah.
movie that I'm
Yeah,
like,
this is
whoa.
like the base level.
Just watching somebody vomit is really tough. So, yeah, it's a lot, and it goes hard in the blood and gore. So just know that going in, it is legit disturbing as a film. To speak nothing of approachability, Cecil, how do you rate this as a horror movie in general?
Like I said, this is it's got a lot of flavors and a
Uh-huh.
lot of flavors that you may not want to eat that evening. But it's really competently made. Like it's got a good sense of style about it. And kind of about like learning a little bit more about sort of like Turkish superstitions and like sort of the Zoroastrian idea of the afterlife. There is a depth there. It just took a little more peeling back. I will say it's gross.
It's so gross.
It's real gross. So for that reason, I would give it like 7 out of 10 bottles of hand sanitizer.
I'm gonna say that is our 39th flavor at our
Hand sanitizer?
at our franchise
Yes.
of Baskin Robbins. Just to refresh,
At Baskin.
we added 8 new flavors
Okay.
At Baskin Robbins Random Horror. We added frog soap, mouth spider, hairball totem, blood orgy, which is a sherbet.
Okay,
Tum-
sure.
we have-
It's like a rainbow flavor. It's like a rainbow.
Oh, sure. We have one called just tummy is the name of the flavor.
Mhm.
Eye jelly, and Eraserhead baby and hand sanitizer are our
Love
new
it.
flavors. Well, let's figure out what movie we're gonna watch next. You've got a scare die, I've got a style die. Let's roll those up, see what movie fits those 2 things. Cecil, on your scare die, if you roll a 1, our next movie scare is technology. 2, it's a wild card. 3, a conspiracy. 4, Mother Nature. 5, haunted is the scare. Or 6, zombie. What's our scare?
That's a 6.
Zombie. All right. We're going to match up the zombie scare with the style that I roll. If I roll a 1 on our style die, our next movie is a black and white zombie film. 2, a procedural zombie film. 3, a sequel, a prequel, or a remake. That seems pretty easy for zombie. 4, campy movie, also easy for zombie. 5, a found footage film. Or 6, something from the EU. All right, what do we got here? I got a 5. That is found footage zombie.
Oh, fun. Fun
Yeah.
times. I'm
I
gonna
really
just let me get some more ginger ale with bitters out of the
I,
fucking pantry.
I really just want to say that I was very proud of myself in filling out the grid this week because we had zombie, and if I'd rolled a 2, we would have had procedural. And I think we had thought of World War Z as the ultimate zombie procedural movie. Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, Cecil.
Oh, of course.
We could have gotten to. I wish I had lied and told you I rolled a 2, but I was honest like I always am.
Mm-hmm.
I was honest like I always am, and I rolled us what did I roll? 5.
Found footage.
But we've got good ones on here. So let's talk about the found footage that we put on our list. But we also have a Letterboxd account. We're Random Horror 9 on Letterboxd, so you can check out our possible die roll matchups and leave comments on those lists on Letterboxd for us and tell us what movies you think we're missing. So, got 4 on here, Cecil. We've got Wreck, Part 2, the Spanish found footage zombie movie. We watched the first one, had a great time.
When last we left them, they were trapped inside a cursed apartment building,
Zombie
abandoned by
high-rise.
the government.
Yep.
And there's creepy, rabid old man, old lady experiments going on.
We've also got VHS 2, which has a pretty famous zombie short.
Yes.
In this one, I think a lot of people think that is one of the best shorts on any of the VHS.
It's one of my favorite. VHS 2 out of the whole franchise. It's got to say gives my thumbs up entry.
Yeah. A couple more I'm less familiar with. Quarantine.
Quarantine is just the American remake of Wreck.
Oh, of course. Yes, I do know this.
It's a very competent remake. It's a very good remake, but it is not shot for shot, but it's the American remake.
Interesting. Well, that'll be an interesting discussion if we want to do one of that or Wreck 2. Do you want to do the remake or the sequel?
And it's almost exactly the same.
And then finally, Savage Land is the 4th one we put on our list. What do you know about?
Did I put that on there?
I think you did. Let's see. Let me tell you what I found on Just Watch from 2015. Savage Land. When a small town near the Arizona-Mexico border is wiped out overnight, suspicion falls on the lone survivor, but a roll of photos the survivor took that night tells a different story.
Oh, interesting. I think I did put this on here, but I've not seen it. I don't know anything about it other than what you just said.
It seems fairly highly rated. I don't know any of the actors. The director is... Oh, let's see. Wait, hold on. Let me pause just a second here. Let's see here. Yeah, it's directed and written by Phil Guidry, Simon Herbert, and David Whelan, who don't have links on Wikipedia.
Oh, unusual.
Yeah. And a cast that also almost none of the cast is linked on Wikipedia.
Jeffrey?
Uh-huh.
Cursed film.
Cursed film! Well reviewed. So there's that.
That's kind of interesting. All right.
That is interesting. All right.
Oh, wait, actually, looking down at our Letterboxd account, at least one person has recommended it as well.
You bring up Letterboxd, Cecil. What do people have to say on there?
Monstrum, Seconds Quarantine. Mm-hmm. King and Commander recommends Diary of the Dead from 2007. While on location filming a horror movie, a group of college students find themselves overrun by zombies and ultimately end up capturing the epidemic on film.
Okay.
Did they get extra credit? I hope they did. Max Bird recommends Savage Land. So this is interesting. Mockumentary counts as found footage. Kind of gave the description you gave. And Max Bird says the photos are the stuff of nightmares, which I kind of like this idea of like still images as found footage. So it's not just found film images, but it's picture images. If that you all know what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that's a good sales point, Maxbird. The photos are stuff of nightmares is a really
Love
good
it.
sales point. Yeah, I love that.
JB Wolf recommends Jerusalem, which I know I've seen the title of a couple times. When a couple of American young adults fly from Israel to visit the city of Jerusalem, a biblical nightmare falls upon them. Listen, get that travel insurance
Oh,
is all I'm going to say.
hold on. Flavor 40, biblical nightmare.
It's really like it's like an everything but the kitchen sink
Yeah, yeah.
kind of everything but the yeah, like whatever that
Everything
uh
but food.
everything. That's my favorite Ben and Jerry's. Rhubarb Second Savage Land, another one for
with
Savage
with
Land.
every fiber of my being? Y'all are
Damn,
really selling
rhubarb.
this movie.
I know, right? Weaponized Toaster seconds Jerusalem and also recommends Frankenstein's Army from 2013.
Oh,
Found footage, international co-production between the United States, Czech Republic, Netherlands, set on the Eastern Front in World War II, as seen from the point of view of a Red Army team. And in the film, Soviet troops invading Germany encounter undead mechanical soldiers created
whoa.
by a mad scientist descended from Victor Frankenstein.
Hot dog.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Wow. That's that's a lot of flavors of like because like you think found footage, it's going to be like hardly kind of rooted in real.
Uh-huh.
When you start talking Victor Frankenstein, Nazis, Trash Weasel says Savage Land is a must watch for found footage mockumentary.
Wow.
A truly chilling movie.
Thank you, Trash Weasel.
Y'all are starting to like change my
I
mind.
know.
Call Me Ishmael says it's a long shot, but dead set from 2008 about a zombie apocalypse happening during the shooting of a British Big Brother style TV show.
Oh, that sounds fun.
That does sound really fun.
That does sound really
I
great.
mean, I hate Big Brother, but I like it as a concept within a horror movie.
It definitely feels like it could be a little shaky, but it's a
Yeah.
great concept. I
Yeah.
love the idea.
And finally, Robber Baroness recommends Savage Land. Listen,
Wow.
here's the thing. Okay, I'm gonna say I Rec 2, I remember being fine.
Uh,
It's it's fine. It kind of like the first one is so good. Quarantine, it's if you've seen Rec, you've kind of seen Quarantine. It's except with not no subtitles.
uh-huh.
I really like VHS 2.
I do too. Yeah, I'd like to see that for the show.
But here's the thing. So many of y'all have like really fucking loved Savage
And
Land,
like
and it's something
want
like
to
I
die
think,
on that hill too. Like
yeah,
every fiber of my being, the what did Max Bird say? Photos are the stuff of
yeah.
nightmares.
Like I think this is a good opportunity to kind of move outside of the sort of top 40 hits into something that might be a little like lesser talked about. But if you have seen it, you fucking love it.
This seems so independent. So like
Yeah,
Rotten Tomatoes, there's
I've never
nothing
even heard
on
of
the
it.
it's like a 61% popcorn meter from the audience
Okay.
with only 50 plus ratings. There's only one critic review,
Oh
which
wow.
was positive, but
Is it available to view?
it is available to view. You can rent it on Amazon. It's also on Tubi
Oh,
and
oh,
yeah, and
Tubi.
Vudu. Oh, Tubi. So
I would say
it's
like maybe my second place is maybe Jerusalem.
yeah,
Maybe. I
yeah,
mean, I would love to have a double scoop of biblical apocalypse with zombie sprinkles on top.
right. I think people just sold this movie so hard. I think we have to do Savage
Let's watch
Land.
Savage Land.
Yeah. Great. Awesome. Thank you guys for really coming through on Letterboxd, really, really teaching us about a movie we didn't know much about. Well, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Cecil, for talking with me. And if you have thoughts on Baskin or Baskin Robbins, or ideas for other movies that would have been good, found footage zombie movies we haven't done before, let us know on Instagram at randomhorror9 or on our Patreon, where we have public discussion threads for each and every episode, and you don't got to be a paying member to participate. So watch Savage Land 2015 with us this week, and come on back next Tuesday for a new episode. Have a restful night with no one replacing your hand soap with frogs or nothing. Boo.
Ooh.